Okay, shh. Guys, we need to go. All right. This, unfortunately, is not an easy chapter, unless you did well in chapter 10, which you guys might have forgot what chapter 10 was. But chapter 10 was about factoring. So there's a lot of factoring in this chapter. It's not all factoring, but let's review the three main ways we learned to factor. This is about a month ago we did this. Does anybody know how we can factor this one?
No.
Okay, we can take something out. What goes into both of these? 3 and x. And in parentheses, you put what's left if I divide both of these terms by 3x. This divided by 3x is x. 6 divided by 3 is 2. X divided by x cancels out. Okay, I call that take stuff out. We also had something like this. You guys remember how this one works?
You just doubled it.
We call this square minus a squared. These numbers are something squared. The square root of this is x, square root of this is 3. So you just do like x plus 3, x minus 3. You guys are acting like you're seeing this for the first time. Let's do, I called this 3-term factoring. We did this one the most.
No.
You guys remember this?
Oh, yeah.
It's like reverse foiling. What goes into x squared? X times x. What multiplies into negative 8? That adds up to 2. 4 and negative 2. 4 and negative 2 multiplied to negative 8. And 4 minus 2 is 2. Adds up to 2. All right. And the harder version of that, the other version of 3-term factoring, hold on, I gotta think a little bit. Let's do 6 minus 2 is 4. Oh. Okay, if there's a number on the front, it makes it a little harder. What goes into 2x squared?
2x and x.
2x times x. So for the back, it's still what goes into negative 5, but you're no longer saying that adds up to 3. Because now that there's numbers on the front, when you FOIL it, that's going to change. So what goes into negative 5? 1 and negative 5. Could be negative 5 and 1, or some other mix. So the way you check it on these kinds is you kind of FOIL, but you only do the outside inside. So the outside now is negative 10x. The inside is 1x. And if you did it right, it should add up to the middle term. Does that add up to 3x? No. So what we can do is try switching them. Now the outside is 2x. The inside is minus 5x. And that adds up to negative 3x.
Oh, wait, you can switch the signs.
Right, which is the right number but the wrong sign, so that means my plus and minus are backwards.
Hi, Owen.
Hi.
Okay, that's a lot like today's lesson, but not quite. So the difference on today's lesson is going to look more like this. So what changed? What's different about this and what we were doing before?
There's 2 variables.
Okay, it's an equation. The other ones were not equations. Okay, well, I wrote equals, but it just started out like that. No, not harder than that. Okay, so what you have to do though to solve these is factor. Okay, so what goes into x squared? This is just the normal 3-term factoring. What multiplies into negative 4? That would also add up to 3. 4 and negative 1. Did I do this one already? Okay, now we're trying to figure out what x values would make this equation work, right? So I have this times this equals 0. If two things multiply to get 0, what has to be true about one of those things? If two things multiply to get 0, what has to be true about one of those things? One of them has to be 0. If a times b equals 0, that means a or b is 0. Or possibly both. But yeah, so to make this equation work, we need one of these factors. Factors are things that multiply with something else. One of these factors to equal 0. So what x value would make this factor equal 0? 1. Now if I plugged in 1, this would equal 0, this would equal 5. Doesn't really matter what this one equals because 5 times 0 is 0. Okay, what x value could I plug in over here to make this equal 0? Negative 4. You just do the opposite. Negative 4 plus 4 is also 0. Now, there's two answers, which is usually how it's going to be. Most quadratic equations, have I used that term before? Probably not. Okay, a quadratic equation is an equation with an x squared in it. The highest power is x squared is a 2. The degree is 2. Most of them have two answers. And you could check this by plugging in. Does 1 squared plus 3 times 1 minus 4 equal 0? The answer would be yes. Does negative 4 squared plus 3 times negative 4 minus 4 equal 0? That'd be 16 minus 12 minus 4. Yes, they both work. So yeah, anyway, that's like what we're doing today. All right, but they're not all quite that hard. Number 1, for example, they factored it for us. Do you guys see that? So they did kind of the hard part for us. So what x values, actually let's start going around the room. Does anybody want to, okay, Brian. What x values would make this factor 0, Brian?
Minus 2.
Is negative 2 minus 2 0?
No.
What?
Just 2.
Just 2. So you can't always do the opposite. If it's a minus 2, you want a positive 2. Because 2 minus 2 is 0. Okay, what x value would make this factor 0?
Minus 4.
Negative 4. That is it. Okay, there's no work to show number 1, so you don't have to do any. Not until number 9. Number 9, you guys need to start showing some work. Or we'll have no mercy. All right.
Almost.
Let's go with Hannah. Hannah, what z value would make this factor equal 0? What could I plug in for z right here? Negative 7. Okay, now I didn't show you one like this. How about if there's a z out here in front?
Z can just be 0.
Right, because what if I put a 0 right there? What's 3 times 0?
0.
0 times whatever, it doesn't matter what that is. If you got 0 times whatever. So if there's a variable out in front, 0 is going to be one of your answers. 0 would work there. Okay, 8x, x plus 1, x minus 10. All right, Luke, let's start on this side. What x value would make this factor 0?
Plus
10. How about this one?
minus 1.
Negative 1. If there's an x out in front?
0.
0. So this one actually has 3 answers because there's 3 different factors with an x in it. If we multiplied all those together, like FOILed that, distributed the 8x, it would be an x cubed equation. Cubic equation. Okay, we haven't seen this one yet, so I'll have to explain it. anybody want to try to guess what the answer on this would be? You're probably wrong.
B equals negative 1/4.
But... Okay, how did you get that?
Because, you need 4B to equal negative 1, and, 4 times negative 1/4.
Okay, yes. So what makes this one different than the ones we've been doing? Why are these different? Okay, there's a number in front of the variable, which these didn't have. These were kind of easy, it's just positive 10 or negative 1. So how do we do it? Well, so we need 4b plus 1 to equal 0, right? So what b value would make this equal 0? Divide by 4. The answer would be negative 1/4. Okay, you don't have to do that every time though. There is a pattern. Okay, here's the pattern. If I cover up this number in front of the b, what would the answer have been? Negative 1. But instead of the answer being negative 1, the answer is actually negative 1/4. You guys get it? Okay. And instead of this answer being negative 2, what's the answer going to be? Negative 2/3. You guys see the pattern? Now if you forget the pattern, you could always go back to this, like solve this for 0 and that for 0.
So
Just takes longer. Huh?
if it was like a negative 1, would it be like positive 1?
Right. So just like if you had like b minus 2, the answer would be 2, right?
Yeah.
So if it was 3b minus 2, the answer would be 2/3. So in this case, it's negative 2/3 and negative 1/4. So b Okay, 9 is where I said you have to start showing your work. Why would we have to show our work on 9?
Because one of the integers is not a variable.
Because they did not factor for us. So we're going to have to factor it ourselves. So Jesse, you know how to factor this one?
Yeah. Y squared is y times y.
Okay, yeah, what goes into y squared, y times y, that goes in the front.
And then 6y, 9.
So for the back, it's what multiplies into 9. That also adds up to 6.
3 and 3.
3 and 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 plus 2 is 6. So this one is 3 and 3. So what y values would make these factors equal 0?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. Okay, this one only has one answer. Negative 3, I mean, it can't be an answer twice. It's just one answer, but. So I said usually there's two answers. There are exceptions. This would be one of the exceptions. All right. Leah, do you remember how this one factors?
X times X.
Mm-hmm. No. What times what equals 9?
3.
3. Well, and it's a negative 9, so it'd be like positive 3, negative 3. Okay, that only works if these both have to have square roots, and they do. It's a square minus a square. The square root of this is x, the square root of this is 3. Okay, what x values make these factors equal 0? What could we put in for x to make this equal 0? Huh? Negative 3. And this one? Positive 3. I think, have we seen this before? What's another way of writing positive and negative 3? Have we seen this?
Just the opposite
Have we seen that before?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you don't have to write it like that, but you could just put 3 comma negative 3. But anyway. $12. Well, what is 12?
I do not know.
Y equals negative 225, y plus 1.
No.
No.
It's something minus something. What's the pattern?
A square minus a
Yep,
square.
it is.
Why, there's no up here.
There's a one spot right here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and that table. Oh, wow.
Oh, that's true. Sure.
No.
Where is that?
What is this?
Okay. Oh yeah. All right, Abby, do you remember how these work?
You do A in both of them.
Yeah. And do you remember what can you multiply into 36?
6 and
6 and 6. Do 6 and 6 add up to 5 though?
6. No.
No. So there's something else that can go into 36. Do you remember? It's a 9 and 4. And how do we use 9 and 4 to add up to a 5?
Negative 9 plus 4.
Okay, negative 9 plus 4 would be negative 5.
9 minus 4.
So yeah, it's positive 9 and minus 4. So plus 9 and minus 4. Okay, so if you don't remember what goes into these numbers, you just have to use your calculator to figure it out. So, what A values would make this 0? Or this one 0?
Minus 9 plus 4.
Yeah, negative 9, positive 4. Number 12 is a square minus a square. Or if 225 was not a square is something that has a square root. If it did not, that would not factor. Okay, 15. Davin, any ideas on 15?
Would you just do x in both of them, and then minus 1 plus 1?
No. It's not a square minus a square because this does not have a square root.
Would it just be x? Would it just be x?
Just be x?
No, stay the same.
Huh? Okay, this is one, it's not 3-term, it's not a square minus a square, this is take stuff out. What can we take out of both of those? X. So we put that on the front of the parentheses, and then what's left if I divide both of these by x? X squared divided by x? X divided by x? Anything divided by itself is 1. Okay, so what x values would make this equal 0? 0 and 1. If you plug those in, it should work. 0 squared minus 0, does that equal 0? Yes. Does 1 squared minus 1 equal 0? this one kind of starts off with this one has an issue.
Subtract 7C.
Right, so our trick only works if we have an equation where it's equal to 0. So this is the first equation where they didn't say it equals 0. So we need to make it equal 0. How do we make it equal 0? We can get rid of 7c by subtracting 7c. If we do that to one side, we have to do it to the other. What's c squared minus 7c?
C squared minus 7C.
Right, exactly. Does not do anything. Okay,
Take out C.
right. Take out a c, just kind of like the last one. Alright, what's left, Kenton?
7.
Well, c squared divided by c,
C.
c minus, and the 7. So what values of c would make this equal 0? What values of c would make these factors equal 0? What could we put right here for c to make this equal 0? 7. Or if there's a c out here, 0. 0 times whatever is 0. Okay, 19. Okay, kind of the same issue on 19. We got a number on the right side that we don't want there. We want it to equal 0. So, Case, how can I make this equal 0?
Add 16.
Add 16. Okay, again, these do not mix. X squared minus 10x plus 16, those are not like terms. They do not simplify.
Take an X out.
No, why can we not take an x out here?
It's not all of them have an X.
Yeah, because this one doesn't have an x. So, but this is in the form of 3-term factoring. Kind of like number 9.
X
So-
times X.
Yeah. So x times x. Okay, so what multiplies into 16, that could also add up to negative 10. 4 and 4, could that add up to negative 10?
8 and 2.
Huh?
8 and 2.
8 and 2?
Negative 8 and
Right. They both have to be negative to add up to negative 10, yes, but that wouldn't work. And negative 8 times negative 2 is positive 16. Alright, so what values of x?
8. Positive 8 and positive 2.
Alright. It's been a while since we did one, so on number 8, for that first parentheses, it's not positive 11, it's what? Huh?
And then number 2.
11 over 2. You can say 11 halves, kind of the way you say it.
Can we change it to a decimal? You want us to just do
No, I don't, no, yeah, no decimals.